Hello, everyone. This is the Parks Academy, where we discuss and celebrate all things theme parks related. We focus mainly on Disney parks and resorts in both Anaheim and Orlando. My name is Paige,
My name is Steven.
and today we will be continuing our World Showcase series.
Yep. Right in the heart of Scandinavia. I don't know if it's the heart of it, but it's kind of sort of like how would you describe that part of Scandinavia? It's kind of like the whole thing is just kind of like a big ligament,
Yeah,
you
there's
know?
not really a center.
I know. I don't have a map up in front of me, and I feel like I probably should in this case, just so I can know. But Norway, we're talking about Norway today,
Sure.
and there is Denmark and Sweden and Iceland and Norway, and um, Disney was like, we're going with Norway, so I'm sure you're going to fill us in on why that's the case. I hope.
I sure am.
All right, cool. So joined with us today is Kirsten Judkins. She is back on the show for the second time. We are so excited to have her back to talk with us about the Norway Pavilion, give us her insights, and welcome back to the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to be back. Thanks for inviting me back. It must have meant that my first time wasn't too terrible because I got invited back, right?
No, it was great. That's like our most downloaded episode.
Oh, well, it was so fun to be on it. I love you guys' show, and I'm excited to get to talk about Norway, the Norway Pavilion. That's my favorite. So this will be a fun episode.
Yeah, before we jump into it, we're going to obviously ask you about promoting stuff at the end, and we'll link to you and everything. But how is your shop going? I know when we talked, you were working on a website and you had some stuff going. Like, how's that been?
Yeah, it's been great. I kind of, when I came on before, I was kind of talking about my like relaunch. I kind of redesigned a bunch of stuff. It's kind of funny as an artist and as like a shop owner, you do stuff and then you're like, oh, this is what really resonated with people. This is what really like found the target. And so when I kind of found that like vintage and minimalism was really the target that everyone loved, it worked out great for me because that's like what I love.
Awesome.
And so, yeah, I've just been going down that road, and now I'm prepping for Christmas. So that's the next big thing.
Can't wait. Well, you will definitely be getting a big order from us when that's released. So we're excited.
Christmas is the best in every. So I'm always looking forward to Christmas and making Christmas stuff.
And we love your Christmas stuff.
Well, Christmas reigns supreme in everything.
I agree with you. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Norway.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you remember your first trip to World Showcase?
I do. So the thing that's funny, I know I mentioned this when I was on the show before, but I'm from Seattle, live in Seattle. And so I'm like a Disneyland person. Disneyland's where I always went. And I remember when I went to Disney World, I was in, I think the sixth grade. And it was like, oh, this isn't Disneyland. This is so big and grandiose. And I remember going to the pavilions, and I don't think it's there anymore, but on that, like the water, that it's around, there was like a restaurant. I think it was an ESPN zone. I don't think that exists anymore, but we like took a boat out to it and went there. And I remember just looking at all the pavilions, and it was like, holy cow, there's a lot of these. You go through a couple and then they just keep going. So it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's awesome. The other question that I've been asking a lot of our guests before we dive into the history is, do you have any specific memories from the Norway Pavilion?
I feel like I don't have any like specific, like very, like pinpoint. But the Norway one was always fun because my family is Norwegian. And so that one was like a special one. And actually the town that I live in is like founded by Norwegians. It has a huge Norwegian heritage. The downtown is all like in a Norwegian style. And so it's just like that one was always like, oh, it kind of feels like home a little bit, all the architecture and everything. So I feel like that just was a fun one because it felt very kind of intimate in that way.
That's
Cool.
awesome.
Can I give an amendment real quick?
Sure.
I forgot Finland and the Faroe Islands. So I just wanted to apologize for that. And also it's on the kind of left-hand side, like more toward the west. So
Correct.
the west of Scandinavia.
Yep.
All right.
With Iceland and Greenland
Mhm.
in the middle of the water.
Yeah, carry on.
Well,
all
let's go ahead
your
and jump-
you from Finland are going to be offended that you didn't add them right away.
I have a suspicion we don't have too many, and if we do, Flo.
They'll forgive
that'd be
you.
awesome. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into the history of the pavilion. The Norway Pavilion actually did not open on opening day. It opened June 3rd, 1988, with a soft opening on May 6th. And it is actually the most recent pavilion to be added to the World Showcase.
That's interesting. I didn't
The
know that.
official, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just was saying, I didn't know that. That's super interesting.
Yeah, when we started doing this World Showcase series, I didn't realize that there were only 2 pavilions that opened after opening day.
So it was Morocco in 85 and then
Norway.
Norway in 89, you said?
88.
88.
So the official opening on June 3rd was actually broadcast live to Norway by Harald V of Norway. He was the crown prince at the time, and he's been the king of Norway since 1991. So he dedicated the pavilion in person in sort of an opening ceremony. They had a pre-recorded When You Wish Upon a Star with a live choir, a marching band, dancers. They also released red, white, and blue balloons, which are the colors of the Norwegian flag, from the top of the Maelstrom building. That ride didn't actually open till July, and we'll talk about that history in just a few minutes. And then there was a grand fireworks display at the end. So it was originally set to be a Nordic pavilion with elements from various Nordic countries. As Stephen mentioned, a lot of these like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Iceland, Greenland, etc. But after consulting with 3 different countries, some investors in Norway specifically came up with the $30 million needed to make its own pavilion just for Norway. And then Disney paid the other third of the construction cost. Now, Disney owns this pavilion entirely now, as the stakeholders or the investors sold their portion to Disney for $26 million in 1992. So they ended up losing a little bit of money by selling their rights back.
I hate when that happens.
Yep. But this actually benefited the country of Norway in some pretty big ways when they opened the Norway Pavilion in EPCOT, which I've never once thought about in my life. But since nearly as many people visit EPCOT as live in Norway, the government thought it would be a really good promotional tool for the tourism industry. And then the federal government of Norway continued to contribute about $200,000 in US money annually for 5 years to help fund the pavilion, even after the investors had pulled out. And then they renewed it in 1997, but the government stopped their payments in 2002 against recommendations from their American embassy because it really was helping their tourism grow.
Interesting. I feel like it is in countries' best interest to invest in their pavilions. So like on our Morocco Pavilion episode, for instance, that came out a few weeks ago, we talked about how the government was very hands-on and how it was portrayed and everything like that. But the thing is, like, if you have so many people coming to EPCOT, and so like if, for instance, trying to think of a Norwegian company, but like if like, well, okay, so like Twinings, for instance, right? Like if they completely sponsored and helped with the England Pavilion, or United Kingdom rather, like that would make total sense because it would help them with eyeballs on their product and association with Disney and good memories. So I mean, there's so much like there has been in the past anyway, so much corporate sponsorships with Disney that you almost feel like they would want to do more of it, even beyond the government. But
I know.
I'm just thinking like from more of like a financial ROI perspective,
Yeah. So if either of you had a guess What percentage do you think the tourism in Norway saw an increase of in just the first year after the pavilion opened?
I'm going to go, I'll go 25%.
I was literally, my first thing in my head was 27.
Okay, well, yours is higher.
100
Oh.
to 700%.
Wow.
Okay, I was at first, my thought was maybe 50, and I'm like, no, that's way too high. That's like crazy.
That's nuts. So
Nope.
that kind of tracks because did you notice how Iceland became popular when Instagram started becoming way more popular?
And people could see pictures of it.
Yeah. And everyone wanted to get the same photo of the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So people would go to
Crazy.
EPCOT.
500%.
Yeah, and it's interesting too that Norway, because obviously, like you guys were talking about, Scandinavian countries, a lot of them are, kind of similar, have similar culture. And so the fact that Norway would be singled out that way, I can see why that then people are like, oh, that's cool. If I'm going to pick a Scandinavian country, I'll pick the one that I'm maybe more familiar with now because of Disney. So that was pretty smart on their part to pay to have that put in.
Right. Right. As I was doing this research, it was kind of mind blowing to me because when I think of the other pavilions, like Mexico or Canada or the UK, I'm like, there probably already were a ton of US tourists that went to those places, right?
Right.
Because it was convenient and people know a decent amount about what the country's like. But when I think about those Scandinavian countries, I didn't really know a ton about them, as a kid or even as a young adult. I mean, we've been to Iceland one time,
Right.
but I don't have a ton of knowledge about these countries. And so where is my introduction to Norway? EPCOT.
Right. And this was, pre-Frozen. So
I know.
now like
I know
every
Frozen really gave Norway a boost. So
huge
shout out
bump.
for-
Yeah, I would like to know what those travel statistics have been over time since this pavilion opened.
Oh yeah. Like from when it opened in 88 to like today.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
that
not
would be
sure.
interesting data to
That
know.
would be interesting. But that
Wow.
isn't like a, travel data show. So we'd have to come up with that later and maybe start another show about like the historic and economic consequences of travel based on popular attractions around the United States and television shows and pop culture. That is something.
That sounds thrilling.
That's something we could do.
That is.
I don't think I could say as many jokes on it.
Probably
But,
not. And
yeah.
we'd have to master like a National Geographic voice
Mhm.
to do that show.
I mean, we could just do our own voices for it, but I just don't know how I would market it necessarily. I don't think people would be nearly as interested unless I pulled like a Roman Mars. But I don't think that's going to be any
I think we
good.
would just have a different audience
Yeah,
completely.
This is nothing. So
Yeah, you would have a lot of people who love data. That
Yes.
would be for sure.
yeah,
Exactly.
right. Anyways,
Okay.
It'll be your side hobby on top of your side hobby. So
oh my gosh,
Yes.
Need a podcast on top of it.
Right.
yeah. If I ever did another podcast, it would require zero research, and it would just be me sitting down with someone and talking. But like, that's the last thing we need is another cluttered, white guy podcasting about nothing. just to be transparent.
Well, hey, we'll take the Disney. I'm into that.
Right. There you go.
Yes. All right. So the main design of the pavilion, as we know, is set to look like a Norwegian village. It includes a detailed stave church, which was super common throughout all of Norway and actually throughout a lot of Europe. These were really common during medieval times. They're made out of wood. There's thousands of these churches throughout Europe. This particular church in the Norway Pavilion is a 4/5 replica of the Gull Stave Church in Norway. And inside of the church in the Norway Pavilion, there is like an exhibit that has rotated through the years. So prior to the God of the Vikings exhibit, it was like the making of Frozen or something. I believe that it's been the gods of the Vikings since just before COVID, at least. But that was the one that we saw when we went last year. And we do get some subtle Marvel nods, technically, even though we don't have the Marvel rights here on the East Coast, because Loki, Odin, and Thor are Norse gods, right?
Mhm.
So we're not allowed to have real Marvel, but we do have the lore from these gods, Loki, Odin, and Thor.
Mhm.
Kirsten, I know that you are a Marvel fan too, right?
I am. Yeah. Yeah. That's the other boost, right? They got Norway has Frozen and they have Thor. So,
Right.
they're kind of cleaning up.
Yes.
You know what's wild? If you Google like the origins of Thor, Stanley shows up,
Yeah.
and Jack Kirby and Larry Lieber. So I think that Google thinks that Thor is just a Marvel character and not a real fake person.
A real fake person.
You know, unless people actually that's their one true god, then who am I? But yeah, I like that area. I think it's cool. They have the cool statues and everything in there. It's really neat, and it's not Marvel heavy. It's just like lore heavy,
Correct.
which is nice.
There are also 4 different architectural styles that are showcased throughout the pavilion to represent different areas of the country. I don't know how to pronounce these words, as we've said on many of our episodes thus
Right?
far.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna try my best. I have 0 Scandinavian
Mhm.
background, but I'm just gonna try.
Shoot from the hip. Do it.
Setestal style is like a more of the rough woodsy look with log cabins and the roofs that are covered in grass or moss or plants. And then the Bergen style is more of the gabled windows on wooden buildings.
Mhm.
The Oslo style, which is, the capital city of Norway, are the surrounding walls of the castle. And then Alesund is more of the white stucco with stone trim style. So if you look around the Norway Pavilion, you'll see sort of 4 distinct styles from 4 distinct different areas
Yep.
that you would find in the country.
By the way, you nailed the pronunciations.
Thank you.
I really think you did a great job.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the affirmation there.
You're so welcome. Sorry, you said the church was 4/5 scale?
Yes.
Why? Just go I mean, I guess I can understand, like, space, but, like, just you're already most of the way there.
I don't know. Maybe they didn't want it to be too tall.
I guess, yeah. I wonder how tall it is, but it's just
I wonder if it's like the ratio of like how high the trees are or how high everything else is, maybe.
Maybe to make it look proportional.
yeah, that very well could be. I mean, I know that Disney always has, like, tricks up their sleeves for force perspective. I just like, we know that, for instance, the Eiffel Tower in France is 1/10 scale. I just don't understand why,
Yeah,
I don't
you're
understand why it's 4/5. It's weird.
yeah, it is kind of weird that if it's so close that you wouldn't just do it, but
Mhm.
yeah, and I know sometimes there's things about like the permitting, like I know Tower of Terror, that's like 1 foot under the limit of where you have to have the rate or the
Yeah,
light or
yeah.
whatever. So I wonder if some of it is maybe like permitting or something, but that would be interesting.
But it doesn't look like it's 200 feet. And it doesn't matter. I'm
Well,
Googling
for
it and I
sure.
can't find anything. I think it's funny that they did that.
Yeah, I don't know.
But there's a reason, I'm sure. Disney's very specific in their reasonings.
Yes, they are.
That could
Alright,
be
so
on your data podcast.
There you go.
Steve.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll just throw that in.
That would fit well on the data podcast.
Yeah.
So before I jump into the attraction history, Steven, I know you never rode Maelstrom
I did not, no.
because it closed in 2014,
So it closed,
in
yeah.
October of 2014.
Yeah, and we went for the first time in April of 2016 together. That was my first time at Disney
Correct.
World.
Yep.
No, 2017, excuse me.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Kirsten, did you ever get to ride Maelstrom?
I was trying to remember, and I can't remember if I did. I'm sure I probably did, but I was only there one time before it closed. So I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, of all the times I've been to EPCOT, I even texted my parents because I was like, did we ever ride this? I don't have any memories of it. I watched a YouTube ride through to see if it would like spark anything. And I was like, this doesn't look familiar other than just what I've seen about the attraction. But when I asked my parents, my dad was like, I don't know that we did the ride, but we went in the shop several times every time we would go to EPCOT. And we tried to eat at the restaurant several times, but just never were able to get a reservation.
Mm.
So I think we may have just skipped the attraction.
Yeah. The ride kind of kills though. Like I was watching YouTube videos of it and it looked awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's very popular.
It
People
looked
were sad
incredible.
when it
Yeah, and
was overlaid.
I don't know if you wanted to talk about the ride now or if you want to go into it later, but I just it almost seems to me like it was better than the Frozen ride because we have ridden the Frozen ride. It's fine, it's good. But after seeing Maelstrom, I'm almost thinking, maybe that was a mistake, perhaps.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the history of it because it's sort of funny. I didn't really know some of this.
Okay.
So Maelstrom opened July 5th, which was about a month after the pavilion itself opened, because of, as the Disney executive said, unspecified problems, aka glitches in the ride. So some of these glitches included riders getting soaked during the storm scene and sometimes thrown out of the boat.
Okay. That sounds kind of like a feature, not a bug, but whatever.
Which this actually happened to a Norwegian TV reporter
Incredible.
when he was testing the ride on the opening day
Oh my
of
God.
the pavilion.
Incredible. If they would have opened it a day earlier on July 4th and it was throwing people out of the ride, that's like so American to just, do that. So maybe they should have stuck with the original version and just open up on our good Independence Day.
I just couldn't believe that they made a ride that was throwing people out of.
That's
by
fantastic
accident.
though, huh? I feel like out of any ride, at least it's that one. Because
Yeah. And I love that it's the reporter out. But, Norwegians, they're hardy people. So I'm
Yeah.
sure he's fine.
those are long winters up there.
Yeah. Descended from Vikings and whatnot.
Mhm.
They're like, whatever.
Yeah.
It was a fun ride.
Right. Exactly.
He probably reported and said it was great.
It's like just like Grandpa used to do.
That's what their tourism. That had to be it.
That was it. That was what got him. The interesting thing too about Maelstrom, it also had several firsts for Disney, two of which included it was the very first backwards ride for Disney and the first audio animatronics in a black light environment. The boats for the attraction were also some of the last work done by Imagineer Jack Fergus. I don't know how to say his name. Before he retired. And he was known as the nickname Tiny, even though he was 6'6".
Okay.
So good old irony.
Funny.
The attraction was originally supposed to be called Sea Venture, and it was more of like focusing on the mythological. It was a water flume where you would encounter trolls and gnomes trying to make their way to the Rainbow Bridge. And they actually had asked the Sherman Brothers to come in and write a song for the attraction.
Oh, nice.
Now, the investors heard the concept and were like, no way are we doing this goofy mythological thing. We want this to be more like a travelogue because we want to increase tourism. Like this is all about what can Norway get out of this too, because they had seen such an increase and an excitement about Norway from opening the pavilion. So they were like, let's make this into more of a history of Norway kind of thing, where you would start and you'd see Vikings and you'd see all of this traditional history and then work your way towards modern day Norway. So that's what it ended up being. It was a slow moving boat ride that went through Norway's past, including Vikings, polar bears, trolls, and an oil rig. And then there's a movie at the end of the attraction called The Spirit of Norway. Now, as we mentioned, this attraction did close in October of 2014 when it was replaced for Frozen. Womp womp.
Why womp womp?
I think people were just I don't know if they were sad
Yeah.
or if it
Well,
was more of like the nostalgia thing for people.
and it kind of almost seems like it was a cult classic in a way. Um, kind of just yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've heard nothing but good things about it. Um, and I agree with you. I think that it probably was something that people really felt an attachment to, kind of like Horizons. Like Horizons closed pretty early on, and I know that that's one that a lot of people wish that like would come back or that they could have kept on. Like imagine if Spaceship Earth shut down. I don't think people would be too happy.
Yep,
You know.
I know. And I think Norwegians were sad because they had wanted this like realistic, hey, look at what our country's past
Right.
and history has been. And we ended up making it about mythological and fictional storyline anyway,
Right.
like they had originally
Right.
planned but didn't do. So I think that probably was part of it
Mhm.
for people actually in Norway who
Right.
had wanted to see this
Well,
representation.
and Norway, like Frozen was took inspiration from Bergen, Norway. So like that area with all those pretty houses that are lined up perfectly and not right on the water. Um, so very much like a touristy kind of. I mean, it's gorgeous for sure, and I shouldn't say touristy, but it's very picturesque and stuff. And so I can understand why that would take away from like the richer culture and storytelling of those proud, hardy folks.
Kirsten, what are your thoughts about Frozen and incorporating this in such a big way in the main attraction?
Yeah, the thing that's funny is because I'm upper 20s now and I don't have any kids. And so I think a lot of people who like have, especially a daughter or a son who love Frozen, that's like a special thing. And you're like, oh, that's so cool. I don't really like have an attachment to Frozen. I saw here in Seattle like the stage show of it, and I've seen at Disneyland, California Adventure, the Hyperion, they had the Frozen show, which right now
Mhm.
is the Rogers show for Marvel.
Yep.
But like Frozen it doesn't really have like like Beauty and the Beast or the ones
Yeah.
from the 80s. Those are like my childhood. And I think then when it's your kid's childhood, that's special. But for me, I don't really like have an attachment to that other than it being Norwegian and my family's Norwegian. So that's like fun. But I don't know. I feel like some things I'm okay with change at Disney. Like, I know some people are really purists. They're like, I don't want anything to change. I want it to be exactly the same. I'm not necessarily that way because I'm like, well, a lot of things that we love now have changed, like that wasn't the original.
Right.
But then there are certain things that, like in Disneyland, they're doing Splash Mountain is Tiana's Blue Bayou. And I'm like, oh, but Splash Mountain, like
Sure.
there's nostalgia there. So I think had I grown up on the East Coast, been to the Norway Pavilion, I think I probably would have been more like, I don't want it to change. But because it's not my home park, I'm like, well, a lot of people like Frozen. That's cool,
Yeah. Yeah.
But what about you guys? I know you have a daughter, right?
So we were famously anti-Frozen for quite a while.
Okay.
Just something we never preferred. When we were dating, we went to go see it in theaters, and the minute that Olaf started singing "Summer," I was like, "What fresh heck is this?" And we went out, and I was like, "That movie sucked. I didn't like it." And anyway, now I watch it every single night with my daughter. And what we'll do is it's just kind of my like way of getting her to relax and get ready for bed. We'll go like sit and lay in our bedroom. I'll turn all the lights in our bedroom blue and we'll watch like the first or last half of Frozen every single night. She loves it. It's one of her favorite films. And so we have begun to love it now too. We listen to the music all the time. So yeah, I'm with you on that. It didn't do anything for me when I was 21, but now it does like everything for me now that I'm like in my 30s because my daughter loves it. So, and
Which
we
is
didn't even force it on her either. She just kind of started watch. I don't remember even how she got into it. She just loves it. And
I think it was just one of those like we pulled up Disney Plus and we're like, which one would you like to watch?
Mhm.
And she just clicked on it. And from the minute that she saw
she was like, this is it.
I don't even know what it was. Like,
Mhm.
how does a 1-year-old just, like, connect with a movie and decide it's their favorite? I don't know,
Yeah.
but
It's
it's their
like
favorite.
between that and Moana, she can sit and watch the whole thing.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I do have one gripe about it though, about the ride.
I know
So
where you're going.
where am I going?
The
All the way over to
animatronics.
Hong Kong? You bet I am. So they do the awful thing that I really it's like Disney Imagineering phoned it in, and it really sucks. They have the projections on the animatronics faces, and yes, it's more dynamic. Yes, it's more expressive. But the problem is that it looks like crap, and they do it on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. I know that they've done it on some other things as well. I think some of the I actually it's I think maybe in Alice in Wonderland I know they do projections. I don't know about on faces, but um, anyway, I think it looks awful. And in Hong Kong, they opened up the Frozen Ever After ride, and it is an exact replica in almost every single way, except every character has a face that is animatronic with blinking eyes and a moving mouth. And it looks like an animatronic, and it smells like an animatronic, and it feels like an animatronic, and it's good because I don't want an animatronic with a projected face on it because that feels wrong and just stupid, frankly. Like I don't need to be forced into a I don't need to be forced into something where they're trying to convince me that it's real. Just like I know it's fake. So just give me the best version of something fake that you can, and I don't really want to see a projected face that's a different color on an animatronic body.
Yeah.
That's it. I hate it.
I'm with you on that. I think it's almost like, I don't know, a little disconcerting. It just it because you look at it and you're like, this doesn't match, like when you go in Small World, and there's all the kind of creepy dolls, let's be honest.
Mhm.
But you're like, oh yeah, it's like a doll, it's a thing, or pirates, they're all animatronic. And it goes together, but when you see something that is more like a doll, but then you see something high tech, you're like, this is just kind of weird. Like it doesn't,
Right.
it's a juxtaposition that I don't think works.
They Disney was able to blend it perfectly in I think Rise of the Resistance, where there are holograms, with like Rey in one of the prep rooms, and then with Kylo Ren and Hux. But then you have like on Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, you have Hondo, and he's an incredible animatronic, like one of the best I've ever seen. And they're able to really get away with incredible animatronics like Rocket and the Guardians of the Galaxy uh, Cosmic Rewind Mission Breakout. I was gonna say Cosmic Breakout, and then I said the right thing on accident, so that was that failed. But anyway, I mean, they have the capacity to do outstanding animatronics, and I know maybe one of the concerns is that if it breaks or if something goes wrong, they can't. They have to shut down the ride. And I know, like on Navi's River Journey, for instance, if the Navi's singing, if she like breaks down, they can just lower her into the ground and you just go right past it. You can't really lower Elsa into the ground singing "Let It Go" and like the crescendo of the ride because that would just be absolutely nothing at all, and it would be a huge ripoff to people that wait an hour plus in line for that ride. I just think that that's a real disservice to the quality of Imagineering that we're used to. Like whenever those I think people are gonna look back on the holograph era and treat it like, like really look back on it with like real, bad taste in their mouth.
Well, and my question too is like, what if the technology glitches on the ride and the animatronic is there, but then the face just has like an error message,
That's happened.
right?
Have you seen the I don't remember which ride it was on, but there was
With
like the blue screen
Mickey
of
and Minnie's
death. Yeah,
Runaway
it was
Railway.
like the blue screen of death on a Windows computer. Mickey and Minnie's is the one that kind of gets away with it. Kind of. Because the
Yeah.
faces are already white, and so it's not like you're trying to match skin tone.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think that's different, but it totally reminds me of, how in like the early 2000s, I always think of this when I watch Star Wars and I watch Clone Wars. And in the early 2000s, when it was like, we can CGI everything, so
Mhm.
let's just do it all. And
Yeah.
you watch now and you're like, that looks awful because technology has obviously improved. And it's funny how everything went that way. And now it's kind of going back to practical sets. and things like that, or only CGI in the background. And I feel like things like that is going to be the same, that you end up going back to practical stuff because you're like, it doesn't really look that great.
Are you saying that Dexter Jester looked bad in his diner in Attack of the Clones? Because I thought it was great.
As surprising as it may be, I am.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think the practical effects always outweigh digital. So
yeah,
rides. Otherwise, the ride's fun. I mean, it's a good ride. Love seeing Olaf. Love going backwards, and
I like
fun.
the backwards
it's
part
fun.
a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun. I mean, like I said, Frozen isn't my personal thing, but so many people love it, and so many kids just love Frozen and Elsa. And so I think that it's fun that they have that, and it seems like a fitting place to do it. I mean, in the Norway Pavilion. So I'm actually like I'm not a purist in that regard that it's like, oh, that should be the same. So I think that's a fun addition for kids. I love that.
Yeah, there's also only been 2 other main changes, well, 3 kind of. In 2004, so this was again after the investors sold their stake back to Disney. They started a princess breakfast at Akershus. That's my
That
best
sounds right, yeah.
guess at how to pronounce the restaurant. And part of the reason they did this was they really were trying to reduce the demand for Cinderella's royal table because that was like the big thing was like, go dine at Cinderella's castle with the princess. And so when they opened this in 2004, it was actually so popular. They had only done it for breakfast that they decided to expand it to lunch and dinner as well. And now it's a very popular princess dining spot. The next change was in 2008. There used to be a Viking ship replica that was like a play area for kids. It was there from 1998 to 2008, and they removed that. Evidently, there's like a rumor that it was a safety issue. So I don't know if like the way that it was designed, kids were just falling or getting hurt, or I don't know what it was.
Heaven forbid being a Viking is safe.
Yeah.
Or dangerous, I should say.
Well, but I guess if you put in something that is like, hey, kids, come play on this, and it's just made of like wood and metal.
Yeah.
And it's not a playground.
I can understand.
I don't remember it at all. I have zero recollection of it.
I feel like I vaguely remember it, but I like I said, I was in like 6th grade, so I didn't ever play on it. But I mean, I think the idea of a Viking ship is kind of cool. It would be kind of cool if they brought something like that back in some form.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they could just do some sort of like big statue or a smaller replica ship made of stone or something. I don't know. Just so people could kind of see and envision the grand scale of a Viking ship, even if it was shrunk down for people to see.
They could put a hologram of one on the rocks.
Perfect.
That'd work.
Perfect.
That would age super well.
For sure it would.
Just like Dexter in Clone Wars.
Love that big saggy pants guy. All right. So is that that's like one of the only attractions there, if not the only? I mean, there's the walkthrough and then that, and that's kind of what you get.
Yeah, the only other thing is the meet and greet opportunity with Anna and Elsa. And that is Anna and Elsa's Royal Summer House. It's based on an actual cabin from Norway that was built in 1817. And guests can meet Anna and Elsa, and you can actually find some callbacks to the Maelstrom ride while you're in line there. So when you're in the queue, be looking around and you'll see some little callbacks to the previous attraction. So those are like the big things to do and see in Norway.
Nice. I love that.
Yep. Let's talk a little bit about dining. Kirsten, have you ever eaten in Norway?
Yeah, I do remember getting like some stuff from the baker. I can't remember if it's a bakery or sit down, but they have, like lefse and all the, I mean, we have a Norwegian bakery here and grew up because my grandma was Norwegian. Grew up eating a lot of Norwegian food, which is very bland and very like just like butter pastries because when you think about the location of Norway and it being on the water, it was all just mostly like fish, and then your stuff was just kind of like any sort of butter cookie, or if it was really crazy, you might have like almond in it, which I know
Yeah.
have I think they have like some sort of a kringle, don't they, there that is like they have almonds on it. I think it's
Yeah. So it is like technically the Kringle Bakery. And they have the sweet Kringle with almonds, is what I think maybe
yes,
what you're
yeah,
thinking of. Yeah. Um,
yes, which is so good. I like
and
that.
obviously their big like showstopper is the school bread. That's like
Yes.
what everyone wants. And at certain times he's completely slipped my name. The little cute little fella on Frozen 2. What's his name? The little salamander?
Bruni.
Bruni. I always want to yeah, it's too close to Bruno.
Mhm.
He's there's a little like edible little candy of him on top of the school bread sometimes on like yellow frosting. So it's yeah, they were able to kind of incorporate that, but the school bread is it owns. I mean, it is the bomb.
I don't know that I've eaten in the Norway Pavilion ever. I don't have any memories of stopping there. The bakery is QSR.
Mhm.
They have sweet pretzels, pastry horns, flatbreads, school bread. They sell Viking coffee. You can even get beer there. Um, yeah, I love a good bakery, but I don't know that I necessarily want to stop in Epcot on a hot day to get like a
Right.
heavy pastry.
Yeah. They need to have
Well,
like a no pun intended, like a frozen room, like an actual cold room where you can go in and have hot glog and eat your troll horn as it goes. Troll horn is a puff pastry filled with orange marmalade cream. So I did not make that up. It's actually on their menu. But yeah, I think that if
that
they did something along those lines, it'd be great.
yeah, that is the funny thing, obviously a lot of the Norwegian food is pretty, like a heavier, denser thing because it's cold there. And so, yeah, in the middle of Florida, you're like, I don't really know if I want like some Kringle on a day like
Mhm.
today.
Mhm.
Paige, they have a lefse, which is a potato flatbread with butter, cinnamon, and sugar, and it's wrapped up like a taquito. It looks so good.
I've seen those,
Yeah.
but I didn't know what it was called. That
Mhm.
sounds delightful, though.
Yeah, we need to go back and
Lefse
eat
is
there.
like that's like very typical Norwegian. Like everyone eats lefse, which is really funny because my Norwegian family didn't love lefse, but like any Norwegian bakery you ever go to will always have kringle,
Mhm.
which kringle can like come in a lot of different forms. Sometimes it's in like almost like a cake, like a long cake.
Yep.
And then I think the Disney's like a pretzel type shape, isn't it? I think
Mhm.
but there's always Kringle and there's always Lefse, and Lefse is not my favorite, but people love it. That's like the staple.
So I grew up, my family has Swedish roots in it. My grandfather was full Swedish, and we always grew up eating like Swedish pancakes, which is kind of
Oh,
they kind of looks
I
like
hate
them,
it.
but we would always eat them with like powdered sugar and like lemon. And I mean, those are so. I'm gonna have to make those this weekend. Those are so
And
good.
then roll them up. No,
Hmm.
that's a
Yep,
Fish pancakes are the best.
they are super good.
Yeah, why? I don't know why. Like same with like Kroonkages. Norwegians apparently rolled everything. They were like, let's
Mhm.
just make it flat and then roll it up. I don't know why. It's kind of random.
Easier to eat with your hands, I guess.
Yeah, maybe
No
it makes them feel like they're
utensils.
smoking. You know,
You're
that
like,
way you could
this
like
of warmth.
you could hold it up to your mouth like a joke cigar.
I when I picture like historically large Norwegian men, I can't imagine them holding a fork and knife to cut anything. So I feel like it was probably just a lot of handheld foods.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so when you make stuff and roll it up, they're just like, okay, I'm gonna eat this. What is it called? Lefse.
yeah,
I'm just gonna eat
And
this
then put
without
on your
cutting it up.
cheek. Right.
Yes, exactly.
that's funny.
Yeah. Things
Good
that
food
Elsa
though.
knew about because they're royalty, so they wouldn't know anything about that.
They would not.
It's really funny because in Frozen, the scene when Anna and Prince Hans are like after he proposes, and then they're at the reception for the coronation, and she's like talking about their wedding, and she goes, "Of course, we'll have soup roast and ice cream." And I'm like, "What is soup roast?" I'm like, "What is that?" Like, I'm trying to look it up, and she says soup, comma roast, comma and ice cream, and I was like, "Oh, I guess soup roast isn't or isn't like a Norwegian food that I just didn't know about before."
Nope, she was just listing things with commas
Right.
really quickly.
Yep.
That's
And
funny.
that is why we have subtitles on our television at all times.
There you go.
And I love that she was like, you know what, let's have roast and then some ice cream. That seems to go together well. Not.
Yes. Well, she's supposed to be what, like 16, 17? So like what 16-year-old wouldn't want to get married and have ice cream?
I don't know.
True. That's very true.
One other cool thing about the bakery before I talk about the family style dining is that the bakery has a sod roof, which I had mentioned before. It's really common in Scandinavian cultures, and that's to reduce storm runoff and to keep inside those log homes. So that was one of the particular architectural styles that they were looking at. So I thought that one was pretty cool. The other dining is a sit-down dining option, and that's Akershus. This is a princess dining opportunity, and it used to be a buffet, but now it's family style. Ever since COVID, I don't think they decided to go back because it worked so well to do family style dining here. The building is actually based on the Akershus Fortress or Castle, which is in Oslo, Norway. When you go inside and dine here, you have a photo opportunity with Belle at the entrance. And then some of the other princesses that you'll see while you're inside dining may include Ariel, Snow White, Aurora, Mulan, and Tiana. One review that I was seeing was people were saying like, it's a really nice spot to be able to meet 5 princesses in 1 hour. So if you have kids and you want to enjoy good food, you get to sit down. It's family style. You don't have to get up. You just stay at your table, and the princesses rotate through the different rooms. So instead of waiting in line for individual princesses all over Walt Disney World, go to a princess dining or something like this, and you'll have 5 different basically meet and greets while you're eating, all within an hour, getting to enjoy your food. 2 things of note on this menu that I really enjoy when I go to IKEA is lingonberry sauce and meatballs. So it's not Sweden, but I do love the Swedish meatballs and lingonberry sauce. So I'm sure that's pretty similar.
It's got to be exactly the same to IKEA's, right?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes, the stand.
Imagine. Hey, IKEA's got good food. I mean, pretty good.
My family used to eat at IKEA once a week when we were growing up.
Paige has this IKEA hack. And Paige has this IKEA hack where she starts backwards. And she gets a like a
$1 froyo.
like a $1 frozen yogurt and then starts backwards.
First.
And then when you're at the front of the store, you just go down the stairs and you're right back to the entrance again, essentially, or whatever. So yeah, that's her little life hack.
You're welcome.
It works out good.
Yeah, then you don't have to just like find all the little shortcuts to go through.
Right.
Mhm. Right.
Have you guys ever eaten at that place? Like, have you done that with your daughter or anything before?
No.
So one of our big recurring themes of Epcot and World Showcase is that we don't really eat at the restaurants there, except for 2. We've only eaten at 2 restaurants because we go during festivals, and at festivals we gorge on everything else they have to offer. So we need to fix that. That definitely has to change at some point. But no, that we have not eaten there.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah, that
Epcot
makes-
philosophy is like eat every 30 minutes
Right.
at a different stand. And so then we never want a full meal.
Yeah. And I feel like that is true of Disney just a lot in general. Like, you get some sort of a snack or a lighter thing, and then like 2 hours you have another one, you know? So sometimes there isn't always like the sit down, or now you have to have reservations so far in
Yeah,
advance. that
right.
You're like, yeah, okay.
Our goal is to never eat at the same place twice, as much as we can help it. Just because there are so many options that, even like resorts, I don't really want to stay in the same resort twice if I can help it. So, we'll eventually we'll get there. It just may take us a while.
Here you go. Next time, now you got a place to eat.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, this one sounds really fun and
It does.
a lot less overwhelming than the one in is it Germany? Yes, the beer house in
Ooh,
Germany,
yeah, no thanks.
which is like polka dancing and live music
It's
at communal style tables,
it's
which
all
sounds
it's
like
all
Steven's
it's
nightmare.
all too much.
Yeah, no,
So
I want like usually when you eat at Disney, I always if I do have a sit down, I'm like, I wanna sit and, like, get out of the heat and rest my feet and not have it be, like, crazy and
right,
noisy and
right.
overwhelming.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, exactly. It can be too much. Like theme dining can be too much. So I'm definitely I can see how that would be a little bit of an issue. What about shopping? Do you want to dive into shopping?
Yes, this should be pretty quick because it's just 3 interconnected stores, and they're actually all named after animals. So you have the Puffin's Roost, you have the Wandering Reindeer, and you have the Fjording, which Fjording means a small horse.
Mhm.
You can find things in these stores like hand knit wool goods, trolls,
The most upsetting
porcelain.
trolls you've ever seen in your entire life.
You can also purchase trolls.
No, that's what I'm saying. You can purchase the most upsetting trolls you've ever seen in your entire
Yes.
life.
And
I
there's
like
those
I
giant
like the big
ones.
one. The big one's cool.
Yeah, you can get a photo op in there.
Hmm.
They also obviously sell a lot of Viking gear and plenty of Frozen and Frozen 2 merch. Um, they also sell the very popular Nordic brand Helly Hansen,
Love
which
them.
if you've ever seen like the outdoorsy brand with the HH on it, that is Helly Hansen.
Yeah. That's cool. They also have like an area with some women's products that reminds me a lot of when we were at the Blue Lagoon in Iceland.
Yes, the
You know?
fragrance room.
Right. It reminds me so much of that.
Yes, me
Yeah.
too.
It's really nice.
Yep. So a lot of the products actually sold at the Norway Pavilion are imported from Norway. So they have a lot of authentic products there that you can purchase. So yeah, nothing crazy about the shopping. The only other things about the pavilion that I wanted to note are that there are trolls all over the pavilion. So if you look, you'll find little trolls kind of everywhere. And trolls in Norway are often used in like bedtime stories or they're used to like scare kids into behaving.
Mhm.
So, parents using the trolls, I guess, as a threat. Um, and then there are also 2 like wandering Vikings who are there for entertainment purposes. And also you can get your pictures with them. And then there's a hidden little statue thing. It's not really hidden, but if you look above the Fjording shop, there is a 3-faced man. I don't know how to describe that any other way. And it's actually a statue of sorts of King Olaf Haraldsson,
Mhm.
aka Olaf II. He can be seen as a 3-sided face, which represents the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost within Christianity, because he converted many Norwegians to Christianity. So I want to put a little asterisk here because if you do any research about King Olaf II, it is very mixed in historians' views of his methods for converting people to Christianity. Um, Many people said he had really harsh tactics,
Mm.
that he was super brutal, like Viking style, forcing people into Christianity. But also, when he died in battle, his death evidently played a large role in the conversion of many people as well. So I'm not picking sides of if he was a good guy or a bad guy. I am neutrally saying that he can be found
Sure.
in the Norway Pavilion. Um, and historians really do not agree at all on like if he even promoted Christianity in the traditional way that a lot of
Mhm.
other people in history have, or if it was more about like power and influence and violence than anything else. So just wanted to throw that out there so that nobody gets mad at us for saying
I
that
would
he's
hate
a good
I
guy
would hate for
who
people to be mad
converted
at me.
people to Christianity.
Um, a couple of quick things really quick about Norway that I find really interesting is I don't know if you've seen this or not, but they have a wooden carved little statue of Kristoff up on one of the walls. It's really cute. After it was created, an ice cutter, Kristoff, basically moved onto a facade where, um, Frozen Ever After is, right to the left of the entrance, and it's really fun. It's a really cute one. And it's actually a replica of like what you would see at Bergen, the woodcutter there. And the other thing, I don't know if you mentioned this or not, or if you were going to, so I apologize for jumping in, but there is the statue of the girl running.
Mhm.
Were you going to talk about that?
I wasn't, because there was so much to talk about. I know what to leave out and what to
Yeah,
include.
I'm just going to quickly drop this in. Greta waits. It is a statue of her running, and it is like one of, I know there's like some statues kind of around Disney World, but technically this is like one of the only third, like I think maybe like the third life-size statue in the parks. You obviously have Walt and Roy, and some people argue like, yeah, you have, Neptune and stuff in Italy, or there's some statues in Disney Springs. But this is really cool because it is one of the very few life-size sculptures at Disney World, and she's a marathoner. And what else is kind of cool about that is that because you have the Disney events going right through World Showcase, she's kind of there as like a paying tribute to that and everything. So I just thought it was kind of interesting because that is something that you certainly would miss if you're not paying attention to it. And it definitely has an interesting story behind it. So
Yeah. I must say, running through World Showcase was my favorite part of doing my half marathon Run Disney event, because all of the cast members from the different pavilions came out to the front of their pavilions and were like clapping for us and cheering us on. So it was just really fun to see all of these people before their workday was started, before the park was open. They were like out and cheering us all on and being excited about us doing the run. So that was one really vivid memory that I have, is actually kind of running through that side of World Showcase and seeing that.
you want to hear something super crazy about her, just really quick? She won the New York City Marathon 9 times, and
Wow.
her record is 2.5 hours for a marathon. She died in 2011, but she was like, yeah, a legend. I mean, that's
not
intense.
the fastest person. So like, it's not that big of a feat to beat me in a race, but she ran her marathons faster than I ran my half marathon.
That's insane.
Just saying.
So well-deserved statue.
Well, wow. I've never run a marathon, and I don't ever really plan to. So, Paige, you got me beat.
Well, I think in our England episode, we talked about who should have a statue out there.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of funny that this all wraps back around to that,
Yeah.
and that we actually have a statue of someone who, really, I mean, 9 times, won 9 times, unbelievable. I think
New York.
I think
That's
running the New York Marathon 9 times is something that you should have a statue built for.
that's so many people.
Mhm.
So like, what are the odds that she won it once, let
Yeah,
alone 9
pretty
times?
intense.
That's amazing.
Pretty cool stuff. Speaking of all of that, do we want to talk about really quick, like if there's anything we would add or take away from the
That's
Norway
exactly
Pavilion?
what I was going to end with. So we'll pass it over to you, Kirsten.
Really quick, though, I did have one question for you guys that I was curious about.
course.
You mentioned that the Norway Pavilion and the shopping has a lot of things imported from Norway. Is that exclusive to the Norway Pavilion, or do a lot of pavilions have imported stuff?
A lot of pavilions do have imported stuff, almost
That's
exclusively.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember that specifically. So that's really neat. I love that.
Yeah, we've talked pretty much every episode about the authenticity factor that Disney has really strived for in these pavilions. And we really have focused a lot on the fact that they have cast members who are from those countries, and that really pays tribute to the authenticity. But I think also to be able to help I don't know how much it helps the economy of those countries, but even just in what we've talked about in this episode and the tourism industry that they've really helped Norway with, or by selling their products of people who are actually from Norway and are importing them to Walt Disney World to be sold. I'm sure every little bit of that counts. So I think that really just plays into Disney's desire to help the countries as much as it is like bringing people to see
Right.
Walt Disney World and Epcot. I think that really is a little nod to like, we actually care about your culture and your country, and we want this to be an authentic experience for people too.
Yeah, that's so cool. I didn't fully realize that it was like in all of them. So that's really neat. I love that.
So, we obviously like to talk about things that we would add or take away, and I'm feeling like as I look through, one of the things I try to look at before I get into it too much is like what Disney films took place in this country that we're looking at, and Frozen is pretty much it. There is Thor, Avengers, Captain America, the first Avenger. It was kind of in there. It was mentioned in Cinderella 2, Dreams Come True. But there is really no Norwegian films from Disney, and it would be a disservice. I think, to do anything from like other Scandinavian countries. I don't believe that there were any other Scandinavian countries filmed in for Disney or revolved around it. So as far as what I would add, I think I would add in a sauna just to kind of like play off of Oaken sauna a little bit.
Wandering
Oaken's sauna. Well, whatever. Anyway, and I think that would be very funny, but I don't think I would want to go on a sauna in the middle of Florida.
I also don't want to go in a sauna with a bunch of sweaty theme park people.
It's true. Yeah, with their shoes on or their shoes
I agree.
off. Worse.
Yeah, I don't want to see anyone's feet. No thanks. After walking the park all day. Yikes.
You know what I will say about our add, change, or takeaway question is this, to me, really feels like the only pavilion that I'm like, I think it's great as is.
I was gonna say, like, I was kind of joking about the sauna thing, but masterpiece, absolute masterpiece of a pavilion. I think.
I was not expecting at the beginning of this series to be like, oh, yes, Norway is the best one. It's perfect. It's got everything it needs, but it has a great attraction
Mhm.
that pulls in a lot of people.
Mhm.
It's got a meet and greet for families. It has good shopping with an authentic experience. You get some history with the exhibit. It's got good food with both character dining and a QSR.
Good shopping.
I
That's
know.
not over the top, and yeah, it might be the
Wow.
perfect pavilion. That's so
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Only thing I would want to see there, which is just like a random thing, but I think it would be so cool if they had like a snow machine that just like made it snow in the evenings in the winter or something. That would
Yeah.
feel like fun. Not that that's realistic, but that would be fun.
Well, don't they do bubbles?
I think sometimes they
So-
do bubbles. Yeah.
Bubble nemesis. I don't know why.
Okay. Wow. Tell us more.
In Disneyland, it just drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Like the bubbles. I don't know why. I just don't like them. I don't like bubbles. Sorry, children of America.
So let's get this straight. You hate Frozen and you hate bubbles. I'm assuming it's a good thing you said you like Christmas. Otherwise, I'd be worried.
I know. The bubbles, man. Like, I don't know. I would rather have snow than bubbles.
My
Like,
only concern with snow is you're like making your way from Mexico, not a care in the world, and you slip on ice or something and just crack your head open, which would be
Well,
awful.
then you can go to Germany and get your beer at the pavilion and you'll be fine.
There you go.
Right.
I think this
yeah.
soap is what they use in the Frozen sing-along show in Hollywood Studios. And I think soap is what they use at Christmas time on Main Street.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken.
I think so too.
So perhaps they could do something like that where it's not bubbles, but it's just like little, soap shooting out from above the building. I don't know.
I think
Actually,
that'd be
do your
fun.
thing.
I bet Disney World is just dying for my opinion on that. So
well, you never know. Norway's actually the only shop that I've ever bought the little Mickey pen.
Yes.
Where it's Mickey's head with the flag behind it. That's
Oh,
the only
yeah.
Norway's the only, because I was like, this is as close to Sweden as I'll get. So
Yep.
Well, very cool. It's been an absolute delight having you on the show. Before we wrap things up, I wanted to ask you, if you have Disney Plus, what is your current icon on there?
Right now, my icon is Ahsoka, which obviously gonna
Happy
air
Ahsoka Day,
yes, I'm
by the
so
way.
we're filming on the day that Ahsoka comes out. So
Mhm.
my evening blocked out for that. I'm so excited. But she's my current icon. What about you guys? What's your icon on Disney Plus?
I just changed mine to Remy like 2 days ago because we were talking about Ratatouille and I just changed it. But before that, it was Din Djarin.
Classic.
Are you familiar with the children's show Bluey?
She probably hates it, Paige.
I am familiar with it. I do. I know it sounds weird since I said I hate Bubbles, but I do teach art classes to kids. Maybe that's why I hate Bubbles, but they all love Bluey. So I hear a lot about Bluey. I know there's like the blue one, there's the pink one. Oh yeah.
Orange one.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. Gotta
It's
get
okay.
That's okay.
You're
That's
good.
right.
You're good.
So I am
there.
mom, which is the mother. And yeah.
Okay.
So as soon as I found that there were Bluey icons, I changed it real quick. But I used to be
You were the Scarlet Witch for a while.
yes.
And then before that, you were I don't remember who you
I
were.
was Gabriella from High School Musical.
Yeah. All right, Kirsten. So where can people find you? And is there anything that you want to promote or talk about before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I mean, this, like I mentioned earlier, Christmas stuff will be coming in October, so that's fun. I also have some new jewelry coming out, like charm bracelets, new charms for existing charm bracelets, stuff like that, coming out Labor Day weekend. So that's coming out, and you can find my stuff on Instagram or on my website, which is kirstenjudkinsdesign.com, or on Instagram. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, we will be sure to link to all of your stuff in our show notes. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show. Everyone, thank you so much for listening, for all your support. We just want to say thank you to our incredible sponsors, NeoSavers and our good friends over at EPCOT. You can get 10% off your first purchase on their website using the code TP810 at checkout. As always, you can find us on the parksacademypod.com as well as the Parks Academy. On Instagram, we're most active and doing all of our stuff over there typically. We're going to be coming back next week with the Mexico Pavilion, wrapping things up, and you're not going to want to miss this one. It's going to be a lot of fun too. So thanks again, everyone, and we will catch you next time.